Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I've got filmmakers Emma Fazzuoli and Clare O'Connor here. Hi, you two.
Hey.
We are on Zoom. We're Zooming because Zoom is totally acceptable recording quality now. If you don't like the sound, my apologies. We're on Zoom. It's Zoom compressing it, not me. But Emma and Clare wrote, directed, and acted in a film together that was at it was at Filmvasion Los Angeles last year in 2021, where it won the Audience Award for Best Comedy. It was called Coco Colby. The podcast before this one was a wonderfully great conversation about how they both went from extremely serious ballet into improv acting and now filmmaking and great stories and two impressive artists whose life stories are a nice mirror image, not an exact mirror image, but there's really wonderful overlap between you two. Mm-hmm. And this episode is just going to be not about that at all. It's going to be about the 4 questions. You're both going to answer the 4 questions together. The Discover Indie Film 4 questions. Oh, I'm sounding really rusty. Which are favorite films of all time, an underrated film, an overrated film, and a lesser-known film that people should seek out. Once you two answer all this, we'll talk about websites and things and TV series. But for now, let's just have fun. And who wants to go first and name favorite films? Limit 3.
Claire.
Okay, I'll go. My favorites, I made a list to remember, even though mostly just because, I could say many films, but I've limited it to 3. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. 1,000 Clowns, which is based on a play by Herb Gardner. It was made in the 60s. I'm just saying that because it's not a super well-known film, but it's incredible. And 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Those are my top 3.
No one knows this because this is a podcast, but I made such a face when you said Planes, Trains, and Automobiles because, I think that's a perfect film. I just think that's beautiful.
Yes, 100% agree. I have watched it every year at least once, forever, pretty much, as long as I can remember. It was like the first movie, the scene where Steve Martin drops the F-bomb over and over with the woman at the counter was when I was a preteen. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so scandalous. And my friends knew they could watch that movie when they came over to my house and we felt like adults. But the comedy really holds up. I watched it a few months ago. It's an incredible film. So yeah, thank you for validating that.
For sure. Well, and 3 Billboards is amazing. What was the second one? I missed it. I'm so sorry.
It's called, this is a podcast, so you can see it, but it's called 1,000 Clowns.
It has 1,000 Clowns. I don't know this one.
Yeah, it's really incredible. It's based on a play by Herb Gardner. And I think the film was made in 1965. It's black and white. It's just really lovely. The writing is so incredible. It's about, Jason Robards' character is kind of a guy who hasn't fully grown up and he's caring for a child who was his sister's, the sister walked out on the kid. And so he's kind of sort of trying to adopt this boy but it's kind of just like a day in the life. And much like a play would work, it's kind of mostly one set and you just see the characters interacting and then Child Social Services comes to do a check. Me telling plot, the plot isn't really the thing that is incredible about it. It's the performances and the writing itself is just incredible. It's whip smart. It's so funny, really moving, and beautifully shot as well. It's a favorite.
Yeah, I can tell you are very into the art of screenwriting because, I don't think I have to say that 3 Billboards. Oh my God! You want to name him? I'm blanking. He's an amazing playwright and screenwriter.
Oh yes, Martin McDonough.
Yeah, McDonough. It's just amazing, and then of course John Hughes.
Yeah.
Legendary writer. It's so easy for people to discount John Hughes because he dealt in the teen genre for so long, but right. He's just unbelievable screenwriting talent there.
Yeah, no. And it's interesting actually hearing you say that. I just realized Martin McDonagh too has a playwriting background. So that is something I feel like I tend to really love films that are adaptations of plays. I guess I love plays. I love seeing plays. So playwrights.
Absolutely. And people who discount it, hey, one of the greatest directors of all time is Mike Nichols. And he completely came from a play directing and playwriting background. Mm-hmm. All right, Emma, before you answer, you want to comment on any of Claire's?
Well, great choices. That scene from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles I saw recently online. It's so brilliant. And also, I have a funny story about a man on a train in England trying to tell someone he was on a plane, and he kept saying planes, trains, and automobiles over and over again. So I love that you named that first. 3 Billboards was not one that I saw coming.
Really?
You hit us with that one.
Oh.
It was a shock, but yeah, I mean, God, what's her name is so good.
Frances McDormand.
Yeah, I mean, she's so good at everything. Good God. And the second one I haven't seen. I have to watch this.
Yeah, you can borrow it. I think it's kind of hard to find. My mom found it for me and sent it to me.
Love your mom.
I know.
I'm going to borrow it.
Sounds good.
Love it. Oh gosh. Okay. Do I have to go now?
I think you do. This
was too hard. I think I'm going to switch one of them at the last second, even though I already made my list. Like, there were just so many. It's hard. This was rough. First one I put on here, classic of childhood favorite, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, wonderful.
Second, Harold and Maude. And third, there were just too many. I'm switching at the last minute to Kramer versus Kramer. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not playing favorites here. You can both add a fourth, but if you want to add a fourth, feel free if it was really tight.
Okay, I will add a fourth, Some Like It Hot.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And that was even a toss-up between The Apartment or Some Like It Hot. 2 Billy Wilders. They're both great.
And Jack Lemmon. Yeah, so you truly appreciate. That's wonderful, yeah. Yeah, Billy Wilder, remarkable. And that obviously, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is the original.
Yes.
Or
yes.
Whatever, Gene Wilder.
Gene Wilder is like my idol. As a kid, that was just such the magic and just his performance and the world that it transports you to. I mean, I love that movie. I saw it so many times, and I cannot even speak about the remake that they made. That's just, no. In my eyes, nothing will live up to Gene Wilder. So
I can't go there. When you see something as a kid and it's magical and wonderful, and then you grow up and you see how subversive and abstract and artistic it sort of is, and all the social criticism like you didn't get as a kid is there. Right. It's really, there's so many layers.
Right. Yeah, that is something that I do appreciate about film and films that everyone can watch, because as a kid, you're only getting what you get as a kid, which is kind of the magic and the, grand spectacle of it all. And as an adult, you can pick up on so much more, which is, I feel like there are less and less of those movies these days. But that one will always hold a special place in my heart for sure.
For sure. And Harold and Maude is just 70s cinema at its best.
Yeah, the 70s, that's my favorite era of film. I would have put The Graduate on the list as well. I mean, I don't know, so many great films from that era, but I do love Harold and Maude because it's just so specific and weird. And I think Hal Ashby is just a great director, and was an editor too, which I think you can really see. But I love Harold and Maude. It's just so weird and fun. And I love that opening scene where he's attempting, when he hangs himself and his mother finds him. I mean, it's just so dark, but funny.
She's nonplussed.
Right. She's like, Harold. And that actress, all of the performances are amazing. It's such a classic.
Yeah, boy, Kramer versus Kramer. That was well, I mean, I'm a little older than you, so I mean, I remember when it came out in theaters, and I mean, that came out when divorce was still a naughty word.
Yeah, which obviously I remember seeing that actually when I was at SAB, Film Society of Lincoln Center was like right next to the building, and they were doing a screening of that with, I think the producer was introducing it. And I went to see it with another friend of mine who loved film. And I remember watching, this was already when I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. And seeing that in the theater and hearing them talk about it, I was like, yeah, that's what I wanted to, I have like a weird attraction to absurd comedy and also like very heavy drama. But it doesn't get much better than Meryl and Dustin and that. And Dustin Hoffman's in like all of my favorite movies as well somehow, which is weird. But yeah.
Same. And especially now that, well, I don't want to jump into the horrors of what he did to women apparently on sets, but oh my God, you're making a face like you didn't know.
I did not.
Well,
I did hear a little bit about that. It doesn't surprise me. I hate to say it. My mom actually has a story about Dustin Hoffman asking her out on the street in New York, like around the time he was making Tootsie, that she passed him and like a group of his, people, and they came up to her and were like, Dustin Hoffman wants to, and she was like, okay, Dustin Hoffman can ask me out himself. What the heck? Like,
and he was married, I believe. So he actually, oh my God.
Oh no.
Oh, should I say it off mic or just, he like hit on his daughter's friends.
What?
Openly.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It crushed me.
Why?
I know, but it doesn't affect the work.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I am still going to hold to Kramer versus Kramer.
I mean, I still love Picasso too. And I know it's tough. It's tough. I apologize for.
It's okay.
I know he's in, and you mentioned The Graduate, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Right? So anyhow, we can move on to your underrated if you want. Claire went first on the first question. So on the second question, Emma can go first. Underrated,
School of Rock.
Right
I love
on.
that movie. And it's also directed by Linklater, yeah, and written by Mike White, which two brilliant guys. That's another one that I watched a ton as a kid. Like I know every line. I love Jack Black. And I do think you can appreciate that film as an adult and someone that's like an artist and is being, crushed by your dream and trying to get there and paying the rent and all that. That's my underrated film. Sticking to it.
I love that.
Great
pick. Yeah. I think I've only seen it maybe once and it was so I need to revisit.
Yeah. I've seen it so many times.
And I highly recommend avoiding the Broadway musical based on it.
Oh no! Why?
I know. Look, I've ruined two things for you. I apologize.
Okay.
But School of Rock is fantastic, and it's one of those films that came from a perfect place, right? Mike White is friends with Jack Black and said, "I'm going to write the perfect Jack Black film."
Yes.
And then Linklater, who so often does art house stuff, he read it and said, yeah, I want to do this. I mean, it's just wonderful story of how that film came together.
It's so good. I do think you can, I was actually discussing this with my boyfriend yesterday of like jokes in that movie that you get as an adult. There's Claire, if you watch it, you'll know there's a part where he's talking about his past with the teachers. He's saying Yo-Yo Ma's cousin, little nepotiz. And I never got that. And now I'm like, oh, nepotism. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And, I can't help but notice those who haven't listened to the interview, you both mentioned love of music with your ballet backgrounds and performance. And that's an amazing film to combine music on screen. Mm-hmm. It's in a lot of ways, it's more sincere than like a Fame or another film about a music school. Cause it's the real deal.
Right. Yeah, no, I love it. That came out when I was like, I don't know, maybe like 10 or so. So I was like kind of the age of those kids. So just really me and the ballet kids used to watch that a lot and quote it all. And
excellent.
All that.
That's great.
Claire?
I thought, and I don't know, maybe it wasn't underrated. I think it was critically pretty acclaimed, but Come On. Did you guys see it? It came out last year and like, I was shocked it wasn't nominated for anything. I thought it was a masterpiece. I love Mike Mills. I'm very, I guess I'm biased, like, cause I've loved all of his films. But I thought it was incredible. Joaquin Phoenix stars in it. It was, I just absolutely loved it. And it is so weird to me that I didn't see it nominated for anything anywhere. So that's my underrated film.
I'm going to back you up that it's underrated because I missed it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did. Like, I didn't see it. I think the only reason I knew about it is because I am so obsessed with Mike Mills, and his wife, Miranda July, I'm doubly obsessed with. And so I saw her like posting about it. So maybe that's how I caught it. But it was just weird because it has like a major star in it. But yeah, the publicity was I think it did have a small theatrical release, but I think it was mostly a streaming situation. But totally loved it. Not to be missed.
Can I quickly sidetrack and say that I saw Miranda July leaving Erewhon the other day in her car?
What?
And I was like, oh my God. Adam was like, what? I was like, never mind. So there's that. And I will also say I did not see Come On, Come On. So it is underrated, but I think it has to do with if I recall, the trailer was extremely vague. And I don't think it necessarily did justice. I haven't even seen the film, but I feel like the trailer did not sell the film necessarily, which may be part of it.
Yeah, possibly.
But I will watch it.
Cool. All right.
And I back you up on the big time on the comment about Mike Mills, because like I thought Beginners was one of the greatest films I ever saw.
Yeah.
Like, I forget to put it on my list, but I think Beginners is a crushingly beautiful film.
I totally agree.
And it didn't get the actors got a little bit of praise, but
not what it should have gotten.
Yeah. Not even close.
Yeah.
Excellent. Underrated. All right. That tees you up for overrated.
Overrated. Yeah. So I'm going to go with The Irishman. Just like, it's kind of a personal preference thing, but like that as a genre, the kind of like mafia gangster thing, I just really can't get into it. That like the level of violence to me is, you kind of become like immune to it, which I think is awful. And like, it honestly shocks me how much violence people can tolerate on screen. Like, it absolutely blows my mind. I haven't been able to get through The Godfather because it is so disturbing to me. I just can't. And I know that there's absolutely incredible aspects about it in terms of it being a film. But yeah, The Irishman, I went to a screening and it was just not my thing. So, and I know a lot of people loved it. So for me, overrated.
And you went to a screening. That means you had to see the whole thing all at once.
I did. Yeah, it was a lot.
Which I don't think many people did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah.
Apologies to all the people who worship Scorsese to a higher level than I do. I think he's amazing. Mm-hmm. And you did exactly what I love with the overrated. You're not saying it's bad. You're just saying it's not for you. And I'm sure other Scorsese films you love, but I never finished The Irishman. I just didn't see. I've seen him tell that story better. So
yeah,
I moved on.
Yeah.
And yet got nominated, right? So
yeah. I mean, yeah, the screening I went to because De Niro and Pacino were there, and I got to hear them talk afterwards, which was awesome. So I kind of would have sat through anything for that experience. But yeah, just, I don't know, that I will say as a callback to one of the reasons I love Three Billboards is I feel like it's kind of a comment on that sort of like, we're just going to keep this cycle of violence going. Like at the end when they're like going to maybe go and murder the guy and they kind of have this laugh of like, are we doing this? And it is it's almost like a comment on all of those like mafia films where it's like, oh my God, like this is just like perpetuating this same like, and because it's seen as so cool, it's like glorifying that kind of violence. And I just can't, I'm not into it. Not a fan.
Agreed. Okay, Emma, you get to do overrated.
For me, overrated is La La Land. And I know that some people are not going to agree with that, but I just feel it was very well directed. But I grew up, like, I didn't mention these on my favorites because I couldn't fit them all, but I also grew up watching all the classic movie musicals, Gene Kelly, all of these singers and dancers who I feel were just, that's what they did. And I don't necessarily feel that Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling like are those performers. So I just don't like, I thought it was super well done, but I don't think, like you're saying, Come On, didn't get any acclaim. I don't necessarily feel that film, like Emma Stone won Best Actress for that. I think she's great, but do I think that was the role? Maybe not. That just for me. And also story-wise, you know, it wasn't as original in my opinion as maybe it could have been, because it's like a story of artists trying to make it like, yes, we've seen that, we've all lived it, you know. But yeah, it was enjoyable. I just don't think it was, you know, as mind blowing as maybe it got noticed for. So
I have a funny La La Land story. First, I completely back you, and especially when Emma Stone's character is like the worst waitress or counter, like if you want me to sympathize for someone who came to LA to be an actor and they won't even do like their day job well, like hard for me to sympathize.
Yeah.
But amusingly, I was on a cruise ship a couple months after it came out, or I came out on video, and there was a channel in our room that showed La La Land day and night. And I'd already watched it and not liked it a lot. And I turned on the TV and happened to be on that channel. And I saw the last, I think the ending's beautiful. I actually love that ending they did. And I saw the ending again and I got teary and I was like, this is really amazing ending. And then we came back in the room like the next day and I turned on the TV to unwind at the end of the day. And I saw the last 40 minutes and I was like, wow, this is really good. I after 5 or 6 viewings, each time catching it earlier, I came to appreciate it as a brilliant film. So I don't expect you to sit down and watch it 10 times, each time starting a little earlier, but starting with like the last 20 minutes. But I went from being a La La Land hater to a La La Land lover.
That's hilarious.
With it in a 400 square foot room.
That's crazy.
You watch it enough times, it'll get to you. I do agree the ending is great. I do agree with that. I just feel like it's just so interesting, you know, how the award season works. We just had the Oscars, you know, it's just interesting to see who gets acclaim what year for what. I don't always feel like it's the year that matches, because I mean, an actor playing an actor, trying to be an actor, is not at all anything that would be difficult to access emotionally. And I don't think like the singing and dancing was at some really high level. So I was just kind of like, I don't know if that's the moment for that. But yeah, I do think that Damien Chazelle is, you know, he's a great director. Whiplash was amazing. You know, yeah, Whiplash is incredible. So, you know, I'll give him that.
Well, who knows? Maybe 30 years from now, he'll be the director whose first film was his best. I don't know. So
yeah, we don't know. We'll see.
That was mean. I didn't mean to be such a All right. Well, the last question is a lesser known film that people should seek out.
Is that me again? Sorry.
I think it's your turn to go first.
Okay. So if you listen to the last one, I kind of mentioned this. So for me, that's A Separation, which it's not necessarily, it won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film in 2011, but I don't know that a lot of people have seen it because it's an Iranian film by Asghar Farhadi, who is an amazing director and filmmaker. And this film is, I mean, it's completely brilliant on every level: writing, directing, acting. And it's a great example of what you can do with, like, there's one main location, and there are a few other, but you know, what you can really do with essentially one location and just brilliant storytelling. It's, yeah, I can't recommend it more highly.
And I will admit I have not seen it. Yeah. I've heard only good things about it, and it's one that I really, really want to see. Yeah,
it's on Amazon. Like, you have to watch it. I was doing this directing class, and the director or teacher mentioned that as a film to watch with like one main location. And it turns out just throwing it back to the last discussion we were having in the other interview, the director of the short that I was working with, Mr. Farhadi, is his teacher in school. And when I learned that, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Because I had just seen A Separation and was just totally blown away. Getting an opportunity to learn from him would be incredible. But yeah, you'll love it. I mean, the drama, the story, how it unfolds from this first moment and like the glimpse into like the reality of life there for women. I mean, it's intense, but it's just so well done. So cool. Everybody go see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder the arts sneaking out the back door of Iran are amazing, because the more oppressive the regime is and people who live under horrible conditions are forced to turn to art, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because I do, a lot of the films that I've seen are extremely realistic, like the realism. And there is just so much to say based on their culture and society and way things work. And, it's like, this is still a movie and this is still a story, but there are so many elements that are reality. And I think it's important for us to remember, what's going on in the rest of the world, because it's a different story for us here. So.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Claire, you get to do your lesser known.
My lesser known. Yeah. So this was a film that came out last year. It's called The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain. And I know about it because a friend of mine is actually one of the actors in it. And it was like a festival darling. I can't remember what, it got some great acclaim at some good festivals. I don't remember offhand which ones, but it's based on a real story of this elderly, actually war veteran, Kenneth Chamberlain, who he wore one of those like life alert necklaces, and he accidentally called it one morning really early. And he was like hard of hearing. He also had some mental illness. I think he was bipolar. But because he was hard of hearing, he wasn't able to hear when it, when the person on the other end was like, are you having an emergency? Do we need to dispatch someone? He wasn't able to say, no, I'm not having an emergency. And so long story short, the police get dispatched and it becomes this really intense, like the film is made brilliantly. It's very uncomfortable to watch. As you see, there's just this horrible, it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion of misunderstanding where they think that he's worried, he's afraid of the police. He's a Black man. The police think that he might have a weapon behind the door, and that's why he won't open the door, but he won't open the door because he's afraid of the police and he doesn't know why they're there. And then, so he's calling the life alert place, and the life alert place is calling the police saying, you can go home. He's fine. And then at this point, the police are getting like very angry that the door isn't being opened. And so it's not a spoiler because it's in the title, but they end up shooting him is how it ends. And it's just like, it's so awful. And it's so, it's just a really poignant and relevant story for right now, but it's made brilliantly. Like the story on its own is unbelievable that it happened. And then the way that the film is made is so smart, and the editing is great. All of the performances are wonderful. Frankie Faison is the lead character, and I know he did get some festival buzz. I think he was up for a Gotham Award. There was, I know my friend, everyone was hoping that it would be an Oscar nom, and it wasn't, but yeah, the film's incredible. It is, I will warn you, like very hard to watch. It's not a fun film at all, but it's so incredibly moving and like just a real example of art, telling really important stories and making people aware of important issues.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know this off the top of my head, but I brought it up on my phone while you were talking, and it's based on a true story. So anyone who, thinks of it as sensationalizing headlines or anything, playing off of Black Lives Matter. No, this is a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story.
Remind me, what's it called one more time? Because I want to pull that up.
It's called The Killing of Kenneth Chamberlain.
Okay, definitely watching. I'll say A Separation isn't necessarily the most fun to watch either. So I guess we're really giving people
real uncomfortable.
Yeah. Oh man, this sounds great.
I mean, I love comedy, and I love that there's a lot of comedy in your favorites and whatnot.
Yeah.
But when a film makes me cry, it actually is kind of doing me a better service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a moving film for sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we run out of here, do you want to mention where people can follow you and whatnot? I mean, not in the real world, but on social media.
Emma, you go first.
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at Emma Sophia F. That's my middle name. Sophia has an F in it, just so everyone knows. And I didn't mention this before. I actually have a podcast. It's kind of a fun time. It's called Lords of Delusion. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. So if you like a good laugh and a good kind of deranged rant from three sort of comedians, you can listen to that.
It's funny. I've listened.
Thank you, Claire.
Recommend 5 stars. I reviewed it.
Yes, I that'll be in the show notes. We'll link it. We'll put it in. I'll put it in for the previous one too, even though you didn't mention it.
I forgot.
Yeah, and for me, Instagram at Claire_makes_things, and Claire is spelled without an I, CLARE. Yeah, Instagram. What can you do? What a platform.
It's almost good.
Yeah.
If you're, don't get me started on being a parent and having a 14-year-old on Instagram.
Oh.
I'm the horrible topic. I'll move on.
No.
You just listened to Emma and Claire do their talk about their favorite films, answering those Discover Indie Film 4 questions. You should definitely try to see Coco and Colby somehow. Just ask them for a private link on Instagram if you're smart. It's not going to be part of the Discover Indie Film TV series for SAG reasons, but I do want to mention the series. If you love indie films, go to Amazon Prime Video, type in Discover Indie Film, and enjoy. Complete. There's 5 seasons, 10 episodes per season, and there's around 20 to 25 independently produced, self-financed short films per season. It's good stuff. If you want to support the next generation of filmmakers, support Discover Indie Film, huh? And give it 5 stars. Like and subscribe to this podcast. Like and subscribe to Lords of Delusion. And if you want to learn more about the TV series or this podcast, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. If you want to follow it on the evil Instagrams and other social medias, it's at DIFWins. And I think I mentioned that Coco and Colby in the beginning. I mentioned that it won the Audience Award at Film Invasion Los Angeles. If someone wants to learn about that festival that we hold every June, just go to filminvasionla.com, and it's at Film Invasion LA on social media. Someone once told me that it sounds like I'm saying film evasion, but it's invasion. We're not evading films. It's an invasion of films in Los Angeles, and maybe someday other cities. But anyway, there's also a festival every June. That's the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. Well, no, that's a festival every November. Okay. Every November, Sherman Oaks Film Festival. It's ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at ShermanOaksFF on social media. And if you're here, and this will come out after April, so I won't even mention what's happening on April 20th, 420. But, maybe someday you'll hear about what I did that night at a movie theater here in LA. So anyway, thank you, Emma. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.